Did you know that Squarespace are offering a free trial and 10% off your first purchase if you use our discount code, squarespace.com/TrekCulture? What are you waiting for?
B'Elanna came out swinging, her first at Lieutenant Carey, a conflicted character with a complex and traumatic past who grew, perhaps more than any other, during her 7 years on Voyager into a highly respected member of the crew, beloved by all, but most of all, of course, by former inmate and all-round turkey platter, Tom Paris. Just as she was accepted by the Voyager crew, B'Elanna began to accept herself and the diversity of her heritage. So let's put the coolant assembly reconfigurations off until tomorrow. It's time we get to know our honourable ex-Marquis Chief Engineer a little bit better. And with that in mind, I'm Ellie with TrekCulture, here with 10 things you didn't know about B'Elanna Torres. Number 10, from concept to character. In the heady days of the early 1990s, when Star Trek The Next Generation was coming to a close and Star Trek Deep Space Nine was entering its second season, secret discussions were being held to add another series to the Trek pantheon. The show didn't yet have a name. Options included Star Trek The Journey Home, Flight of the Voyager, Voyager's Mission, Outer Bounds, Galaxy's Rim, ooh yikes. But its cast of characters was already beginning to take shape. If not quite B'Elanna herself, the idea for a B'Elanna-type character was there from the very start of the development process. Published in Star Trek Voyager: A Vision of the Future, Voyager co-creator and executive producer Jerry Taylor's notes from July to August 1993 mention a half-human, half-alien character as a possibility for the new show. However, at that early stage, the then unnamed officer was not half-human and half-Klingon, nor even Marquis, but the latest thinking was Bajoran Cardassian. This officer also had B'Elanna's future husband's job at the Con. In fact, Taylor's initial outline for Star Trek The New Series gave the engineer character as an older human male. But, and sorry Carey, but you're about to be bumped, by the time it came to the first draft of the Voyager series Bible, the engineer was already B'Elanna, half-Klingon, half-human, female. Number 9, Klingon cosmetics. As Roxanne Dawson admits in the Voyager Season 5 DVD special features Time Capsule B'Elanna Torres, she knew very little to nothing about Star Trek when she went in to read for the role. Not knowing what a half-Klingon was, Dawson was equally unaware at first that playing Torres would require lengthy visits to the makeup chair, 2.5 hours, including 1 hour to remove it. Ooh. It seems, though, that the original look for the character was also quite different from the final on-screen version, or as Dawson recalls with good humour, it was quite hideous to begin with. Thankfully, Dawson didn't have to declare a bat-leth battle to get the makeup changed, toning down the Klingon and adding a little more human. In the end, this included the removal of a set of Klingon teeth and a full Klingon nosepiece in a compromise between B'Elanna's two halves that Dawson was pleased with, calling it her beauty monster makeup. Although the actress would have to put the teeth back in and then some for one particular episode in the first season. Number 8, Face Off. Star Trek has always sought to hold a mirror to its audience through the use of archetypal characters, one of which is the half-alien in prosthetics. In the episode Faces, Trek took that aspect of its storytelling to its highest expression by physically splitting B'Elanna into her Klingon and human halves. One became the mirror for the other, making manifest B'Elanna's internal struggle with the two sides of her lineage through the externalized conflict between the characters. The same couldn't be said for poor Lieutenant Durst, though. Roxanne Dawson admitted to a degree of trepidation about the episode upon first reading the script, feeling that she didn't yet know enough about the character to face the challenge of playing two of her. Well, Dawson certainly succeeded in inhabiting both roles, however, receiving the greatest compliment from her own mother, who commented after the episode had aired, "Well, you were good, but the girl who played the Klingon was really great." Number 7, a series of firsts. Voyager pioneered its way to its novel stay in the Delta Quadrant with the first female captain to helm a Star Trek show. In point of fact, and we all know the Bajot story by now, Kate Mulgrew as Captain Janeway climbed aboard extremely late in the process. The very first person to sign on the Starship Voyager was Roxanne Dawson, who had also been one of the first to read for the part of B'Elanna Torres. And B'Elanna would then become the first female Chief Engineer series regular character. B'Elanna was not the first Klingon human character in Star Trek, although she was the first as a series regular. And that distinction goes to Kayla, Klingon ambassador and mother of Alexander Rozhenko. Not wanting to redo Worf, Voyager producers took inspiration from Kayla when they were coming up with B'Elanna. Much like Kayla, B'Elanna has a mixed heritage, Klingon and human. Her Klingon side is disturbing to her. She makes every effort to suppress it, preferring to develop her human side. Over the years, many have come to identify with this aspect of B'Elanna in particular. In the Voyager Season 5 DVD special features, Roxanne Dawson recalls the letters she received from fans. She said, "Some dealt with struggles for people who were racially mixed and were struggling with which race they felt they should identify with. Other people were dealing with their own psychological issues, a dark side and a light side that they felt was warring inside of them." It was in episodes like Barge of the Dead, Lineage, and Extreme Risk that we would see this inner turmoil play out to the greatest effect and affect. Number 6, Banana Pancakes. Through our wonderful writer Jack's experiences with his own mental health, he notes how once familiar comforts can lose their appeal and effect, as had banana pancakes for B'Elanna in Extreme Risk. At the same time, in certain forms of therapy, what is comfortably familiar in touch and sight and sound and smell may be placed in a box to help ground us during the more difficult times. And for Jack in particular, all of Star Trek Voyager was and is in that box. And in that sense, so were banana pancakes. At the end of Extreme Risk, banana pancakes become a source of comfort for B'Elanna once more, or at least the symbol of a renewed sense of hope for the future. What you might not know is that Roxanne Dawson was instrumental in the creation of the episode. During a dinner with producers Brannon Braga and Kenneth Miller before the start of Season 5, the conversation turned to the nature of depression, and Dawson shared her ideas for exploring that side of B'Elanna's character. As she later noted in the Voyager DVD extras, "I felt that she had a part of her that was very dark that maybe we hadn't touched on yet. A part of her that, if left unattended to, would become very self-destructive to the point of possibly injuring herself. And that injuring herself comes from a self-loathing, a self-hatred that she would need to explore." Dawson hadn't expected that dinner conversation to turn into an episode, but we're forever glad that it did. Extreme Risk remains to this day a powerful portrayal of the realities of depression, suicidal thoughts, and self-harm, and the need for the utmost care, compassion, and understanding for all those who are going through it. Number 5, Beta BLTs. Since Voyager shot out of the Borg sphere and Tom shot down to sickbay, we've not heard a word from B'Elanna Torres, or Baby Morale for that matter, in canon. What we have heard about her will be discussed in a later entry. Roxanne Dawson, now a highly successful director whose last role in front of the camera was in 2011, has indicated that while she is fond of the new iterations of Star Trek, she is unlikely to make a return to the franchise as the emblematic engineer. Of course, that could all be a bluff. Any reappearance of B'Elanna would be covered by more NDAs than a Section 31 orientation weekend, so Dawson couldn't tell us even if she wanted to. For now, though, we must look to Beta Canon to find out what B'Elanna got up to after the Delta Quadrant. B'Elanna and the Voyager crew more widely has featured quite prominently in the extended literature. It's Christy Golden's excellent two-part novel series Star Trek Voyager Homecoming and The Farther Shore, followed by the Spirit Walk series Old Wounds and Enemy of My Enemy, that really shine a spotlight on the immediate aftermath of Voyager's return home. In those, B'Elanna returns to Boreth to find her mother, but we won't spoil what happens next. Number 4, no lab coat for Brigitte. It's fairly common knowledge by now that Roxanne Dawson was expecting her first child during the filming of Star Trek Voyager's Season 4. Producers chose not to include her pregnancy in the plot, preferring instead to equip B'Elanna with an engineering jacket to hide the bump, and Torres can be seen wearing the extra item from waking moments to hope and fear. An exception was made during the Herosian holographic hijinks in the two-parter The Killing Game. Interfaced with the Second World War setting, Torres was naturally a member of the French Resistance, as the character Brigitte, pregnant with the child of a Nazi officer she had been visiting undercover. Unfortunately, it's a very good projection. It even kicks, as B'Elanna says when the game is up. In the end, Dawson only missed 2 episodes, Unforgettable and Living Witness, and was back well in time for the season finale as she had hoped. Number 3, This Day of Honor Forward. Seeing the relationship between Tom and B'Elanna grow and evolve, face challenges and setbacks but ultimately come through stronger for it, is one of the finest aspects of Star Trek Voyager. It never felt like a done deal, an inevitable progression to wedded bliss. I'd rather take my chances with Freddie Bristow, as B'Elanna put it to Tom when he proposed a date on the holodeck in Season 3's The Swarm. Or, as Roxanne Dawson noted in the Voyager Season 5 DVD extras, if you look at B'Elanna from the beginning, she seemed like she would be forever alone. To end up married and with a child at the end of 7 years is quite a trip. It was in Day of Honor that the pair finally admitted their true feelings for one another, having danced around the topic in Season 3. There's nothing like floating in the vacuum of space with your oxygen running out to make you get down to the essentials. Number 2, an unruly teenager who grew into a woman. That's how Roxanne Dawson quite brilliantly described her character's development over the course of 7 years in an interview at the Voyager Wrap Party in 2001. B'Elanna Torres, as well as a certain Flyboy, had no doubt the most well-defined and distinct arc of the series, going from easily irascible marquee rebel with a deep lack of self-worth to Starfleet convert with a newfound confidence and a family. Much like Voyager's path through the Delta Quadrant, B'Elanna's journey was far from a straight line, little ever is, but Dawson was largely satisfied with how her character was portrayed throughout, both the good and the bad, telling Star Trek Voyager, the official magazine, in June 1997, I don't want B'Elanna to be a goody two-shoes. I don't mind seeing her darker, uglier sides. That's important. It's part of who she is. It's good to see her at her worst. It's good to see her learn from her mistakes. That's what makes a character interesting. Dawson noted that the depiction of Tom and B'Elanna's conflictual relationship as two strong-willed individuals just trying to make things work had helped in some way to redefine what it meant to be married, and that the pair would probably still be fighting and loving each other back on Earth. Number 1, Dauntless Designer. If you're on Instagram, then you might already be familiar with Star Trek Logs, a series of voiced in-universe personal logs that began with characters from Star Trek Discovery in 2020 and then branched out to Star Trek Lower Decks Seasons 2 and 3 and Star Trek Prodigy. In one of her personal logs on the Instagram page released in the week between the episodes Asylum and Let Sleeping Borg Lie, Admiral Janeway states, "It's strange, commanding the Dauntless after years behind a desk. Even its name, suggested by project leader B'Elanna Torres, is a solemn reminder of my previous time in the Delta Quadrant on Voyager." Voyager made it home in 2378, and Janeway's log here gives the stardate of 61224.9, i.e. 23rd of March 2384. Naturally then, B'Elanna's design work on the Dauntless would have happened somewhere in between those 2 years, which makes this the most up-to-date bit of information we have for the character in canon, by our reckoning. And with the return of Robert Picardo in the role of everyone's favourite EMH in Season 2 of Prodigy, could we see a return for B'Elanna Torres? Or dare we say, maybe in Star Trek Legacy?
Hello, I'm Duncan Rillick, no relation, and my friend Sean Blass has been rushed to Starfleet Medical, so he's asked me to tell you about Squarespace. Squarespace allows you to build your own fantastic website, like he did for GTN. Its state-of-the-art template designer allows you to build what works best for you. Anyone can use it, even people like me, who may not be the sharpest typo in the spanner box. If you would like to try this deal, you should go to squarespace.com/TrekCulture. You get 10% off your first purchase. Cheap. When you go, tell them Rillick sent you. No relation. Good luck, Sean Blass. Hope everything goes okay with the toenail.
And that concludes our list. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there and all the other social medias, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with TrekCulture. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to boldly go where no one has gone before.